Hi, so this is Deb and Bec, and we have a lovely guest with us today, Paola Royale. I don't know, on our screen it looks as if we are black and you can't see us, so I hope that that is not what you are seeing, but hey, let's just go with it anyway. So I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and New Year, and you're ready to kind of get into this new year and have some fun and enjoy yourself. So, Paola, you share principles and you talk about nutrition and things like that. So we are very, very interested to hear a little bit about you, what it is you do, what you share, and how you help people.
Yes, me too. So well, you never know what's unfolding and what we're doing, like we just said. So I work as a nutritional therapist, and I work with the understanding of how we psychologically work. And I started a program last year to combine all my knowledge about nutrition and lifestyle with this understanding, which I find more and more is so powerful with my clients. So I got over 30 years of experience, medical and psychological experience, and to put that all now together and really passing on, my passion is to really pass on, to empower people about their health and well-being. And we know when we get out of our own way, psychologically, things just fall into place, and we don't have to change our thoughts. It just happens, So when we feel anxious, it's because in that moment we have anxious thinking, and that will pass without us doing anything. And then I found out this works as well on a physical level, because as little we actually do and listen to our self-healing we have innate, as more is happening and as better we are able to heal. And so bringing that all together, empowering people, how they psychologically work, and also about how nutrition can help their innate ability of self-healing. That's what I'm doing in my program. So I run 5-week programs, I run one-to-ones, I run group programs, and you two are smiling there, sitting there. And I also started an online group program, which is going to start this Friday again. And yes, what can I tell you more? So, well, what I found out over the time is, well, diets don't work and they never will. Yeah, so that is a fact, because we restricting ourselves of certain foods. That goes on for a month or something. I just was reading a post yesterday on Facebook, and she said, oh, I can't wait till this is over. And so we're waiting, we're restricting ourselves, we don't eat enough. So our metabolism actually starts to slow down as well in that time. And we cannot wait to eat all the foods we want to eat again, or whatever, And then we put on all the weight again and even more. And what I found with my clients is that when I educate them about food and the effect it has on their health and their innate ability of self-healing, what I just said, and then combine that with explaining to them why they do what they're doing through, understanding the power of thought in that. That's really powerful, and that has lasting results for my clients, I find. So I find recently that actually educating around food is 1/3 of what we're doing. And the last 2/3 is actually talking about the understanding where our experience is coming from. And I actually wrote down this morning, because I was just thinking, I wanted to reflect on, why do we actually eat? What is it? Why do we eat? And it's actually 1/3 is actually that we're really hungry and we actually need food and we need to nourish ourselves. But the other part is we're feeling a need. So we need constantly something in our mouth, you know. So from childhood on, you know, we had the dummy we got in our mouth, and then it's like a comfort thing. And then we put food in our mouth, or we take cigarettes, or whatever it is. So it's having all of it something comforting. A client of mine, she said it's like a safety blanket for her, you know. So then the other thing, it's a rewarding thing. So we reward ourselves, you know. So, oh, you know, when I did that really well tonight, I'm going to have a glass of wine. And I did that really well, so I deserve that cake now, you know. And, oh, this was really hard, so let's have a cup of coffee. And, you know, so all these things. And then we have all the beliefs around food. So, you know, so I cannot go to sleep without having this yogurt, otherwise I will be hungry at night. Or another thing, I get up in the morning, you know, and I will not be able to functioning without that cup of coffee. So we're having a lot of beliefs, and with the understanding we're all working with, it's so beautiful when you suddenly can see what are these beliefs, that they are clusters of thoughts. And it's okay to have them, but to see that it's thought created. And when I'm understanding how I work, then I'm able to let go of my past, and I'm not bound, you know, thinking the whole time about future events. I'm able to be more present. And when I'm able to be more present, I actually reconnect with the essence I really am. And in that moment, I get quiet, my thinking drops, and I actually don't need anything. And that is part of what I try to pass on to my clients. And yeah. Have you got any questions so far?
Yeah, sure. Is there anything you've got? Yeah, cool. I really liked what you were saying there, and there was a couple of things that kind of popped into my mind as you were. I'm not sure if they're questions particularly, but kind of conversational points. I really loved what you were kind of talking about how a third of our eating is actually what we physically need in terms of nourishing it and keeping the body alive, if you like, and the other 2/3 is coming from a totally different place. It's that need to, you know, I don't know, quiet. For me, I notice I eat sometimes just to quieten the voice in my mind a little bit, or like you say, I've seen myself do that whole, oh, I've had a hard day at work, so I'll eat this food to comfort myself, or yeah, exactly what you're saying, I deserve this because. And it really interests me that, because over the last couple of years, definitely something we've done a lot more of is get to know ourselves and know the difference in our own minds when that voice or that kind of feeling in our body is saying eat something. Where is that really coming from? Like, genuinely, do we need food or drink here? Are we genuinely thirsty or hungry? Or is it coming from something else? And not even a judgment on that, but just getting to know what that voice is really telling us. And it's surprising, as you kind of get to know that about yourself, how much less you kind of do that, you know, overeating or the eating from a place of, like you say, kind of celebration or deserving, or that actually you don't need, that your body doesn't need so much of what, and Christmas is a, you know, perfect example of how much we do that for ourselves. And I was reading this morning, I'm reading a book at the moment, and the person in it was talking about kind of, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was something about the foolishness of the body. And she was sort of talking and explaining that doesn't mean our body itself is foolish, but when we misunderstand the signals we're getting from it, we can fool ourselves into exactly that, kind of overindulging, overeating, not genuinely listening to what our body needs, whether that's food or anything else, you know, sleep and care and those kinds of things. So yeah,
I think you know what we do is we splitting a lot, you know. Body and mind is one.
Yes.
And with this understanding, we start to see that body and mind is one. And then we want to nourish ourselves. when we are in that place, and we all get lost in it, you can be as long in the understanding as you want to be. We all get lost, but we come back to it much quicker. And when we are in this Sydney Banks called it once that meditative state, when we are in that place, there's quietness, there is stillness, and we feel that connectiveness with the essence we really are. And that's when we know that's what we need in that moment, and is it really that we need to eat something here, or is it just, to comfort ourselves, or whatever, because we're 2 steps ahead or still 2 steps in the past, So, and I think that's the beauty with this understanding, that we start to see that more and more.
Yeah, I love, like, when you were talking about diets and things like, I mean, personally, I'm not I'm not aware that Bec has either. Neither of us have ever been on a diet. It's not something we've ever kind of got into. I don't feel like food has been something I've had a lot of overthinking about.
No, not in that sense, but I can definitely, for me personally, I can see places where I've turned to food in moments of kind of, I don't know what to do with myself here, whether it's a bored feeling or whether it's
definitely
miserable feeling. That I can see that I've done that, but I don't think generally we've done diets per se.
No, but it's a really interesting one. I think, like, with this understanding, what I've noticed exactly what you're saying, as I've got to know myself and begin to understand myself, I've been more nourishing in my mind. I'm more interested in taking care of myself and nourishing myself. And I think one of the things, like, psychologically, that I kind of learned was just to love myself where I am. If whatever that is, if I'm not feeling great, or if I don't like somebody, or if I'm feeling pissed off or depressed or whatever, just to be okay with that, and just to love myself anyway. That seems to have, when I was in that place of, you shouldn't be like this, you shouldn't think like that, you shouldn't be. And I've really seen that in people, that we've worked with, when they're in a state of, my body shouldn't be like this, I should be different. It's not. And I guess, like, when you were saying diets don't work, it's because it's coming from that place of, I need to be different, so I need to do this, so I am different. And what I noticed with the understanding of the principles for me mentally was, when I was just like, you know what, this is how I am in the moment. At this moment, it feels like I don't like that person. And okay, I'm just going to love myself with that, and just be okay with that, how it is. And it seemed that melted that. A byproduct of that was, I started to feel differently about that person. And so what I'm kind of hearing and what you're saying is, instead of going in from that place of, right, there's something I don't like about myself, whatever, I need to change it. If we just go from a place of, this is where I am right now, let's start here with this, with love and with appreciation of what is right now, and let's learn about nourishment. Let's learn about how we nourish ourselves, both mentally and physically, because exactly what you're saying, the mind and the body are one. It's not, and it feels to me, when we look in this direction, whichever way, whether we come to this because we feel there is something about our bodies that we don't like or isn't working, we're unhealthy, we have an illness that appears to be connected with food or whatever, or whether we come from because mentally we're not great. It feels like, exactly like Bec said, I see we eat in a more healthy way now because it makes more sense. And we've never looked, we've never kind of done that. It doesn't appear to me that I've had health problems because of food. It doesn't feel like I'm hugely overweight or any, I didn't come for any of those reasons. But it just feels like, looking in this direction, it makes less sense to abuse myself mentally, physically, in any way at all. And then, like you're saying, if you come in, definitely, we talk a lot to people about mental ways that they get into trouble. And I guess like if people come to you because it feels like they have, you know, problems, I don't know, IBS and things like that, you know, their bodies aren't liking the food, it makes sense to look in the same direction, to look at the same thing, but from that perspective. Does any of that make sense?
Completely, utterly, you know, because I think that's a really important point, you know, what you just pointed out. I mean, when acceptance is the first step, and loving yourself, you know, some people find it difficult to love themselves in the first place, you know, but to say, you know, look, it's okay how you are in the moment, you know, let's start here. So you're not bound by your past anymore, you know, and that all happens without any judgment. No judgment to me, no judgment to the outside, you know, it's just going with, right, that's where we are here. And that's exactly when you have the foundation, how you, I keep saying, how you psychologically work, you know, how when you understand where your experience is coming from, it gives you a completely different foundation. And you can say, okay, I'm not interested, you know, there are no outside circumstances making me feel a certain way, you know, so let's start here. Let's start right now. And it's a completely different starting point. Absolutely. Yeah. And we then, like you said, you know, then you're not interested in putting all the foods inside you which are actually sabotaging your health, you know. So we do know, and that's really important to know as well, and that's why the combination of both, you know, understanding where our experience is coming from, and understanding as well what nutrition can do to our health, you know. So the nutritional background, bringing the two together, is just a bomb, you know, to help people, to help them to have lasting results for their health and weight loss. You know, so many people, they're going, it drives me mad, really, when you think so many people, they're going on all kinds of diets, you know, and all these big programs who are out there, and they're just finding themselves, you know, bouncing back again, and even putting on more weight, you know. But when you understand the nutrition side of things, and then this understanding, you know, so wow, you know, a client of mine, she said the other week, when I came actually to the second meeting we had, and she said, I didn't know I had a choice, you know. I just didn't know it, you know. I just thought I had to eat this, you know. This cake was screaming at me, eat me, you know. I thought I had to eat this, but suddenly I'm realizing I have a choice here, you know. And she said, and I actually found out I was eating all these biscuits and I don't even enjoy them. I don't even like them, you know. So it changed it completely for her, starting to understand how we psychologically work. And that's just amazing.
Yeah. We've had a couple of comments. I'm just going to scroll through and say hello to the people that are with us.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining.
Oh, I think Sarah's telling us she's seeing lots of lovely colours, so I suspect people can't possibly see us, but we are here. Lisa's put that she loves the mind emotion thing. And Sarah's also put she's lying in bed with a hot lemon drink, but loving herself with a stinking cold.
Oh, bless you. Oh, I hope you're feeling better soon.
And that comes right back round to the acceptance thing, doesn't it?
And, exactly. Yeah. And I think, you know, that's the nice thing. She stays in bed and is not going out. Is not forcing herself to go to work. And that's something we forget today as well. You know, we think, you know, we always need to function, so we get our immunizations and whatever. And instead of saying, look, I'm not feeling right, I retreat. It's time. My body is telling me in the moment I need to retreat. So I have my lemon drink and I'm lying in bed. Well done, you.
And what a perfect thing to be doing while you're lying in bed, sitting with us.
Exactly, listening to us.
I think My favorite word so far from this morning is the word nourishing. I absolutely loved that when you said that. That is so, I think that just absolutely nails it for me. What this conversation is about nourishing. And like you were saying, the mind body, they're not separate. So we nourish one and we nourish the whole thing. And it kind of, for me, it kind of works in a circular thing. Sometimes I'm nourishing my mind and my body feels good for it. Other times I'm nourishing my body and my mind feels good. And there just isn't any separation. It just kind of continues to loop. It's perfect. I love that. I'm going to steal the word nourishing.
like we know there's only one thing happening in every given moment. And so it is not separate.
No.
There is no separation.
No. We're on a webinar on Friday, which is entitled the whole summit is entitled As You Are, and the webinar we're doing is about how you relate to yourself. And I'm going to talk about nourishing. That's one.
Yeah. There's a lovely lady. You could connect with her. Her name's Helen
James.
James, and
we'll connect you.
Yeah, we will connect you, because she's the summit that she is doing is about accepting yourself the way you are, and she's got a very, she talks about how too many people go on these diets to try and change themselves in exactly the same kind of way. And it's kind of like, well, actually just come back to who you are, where you are right now, and that's the starting point kind of thing. Because I think it's like anything, isn't it? Like for me, again, going back to the psychological, the minute I'm in that place of, I can only like myself if I'm different. I can only like myself if I'm kinder. I can only like myself if I'm more, whatever it is. I can see that's what I did to myself for a long time. It wasn't necessarily a body thing for me. It was a mind thing. I tortured myself because I wasn't good enough and I had to be better. I had to be different. And to me, diets is just the same thing body-wise that we can do to ourselves mentally. It's just like we're in that place of, I need to be different so I can be accepted, so that I can accept myself, so that I can love myself, and whatever. And I think when we begin to just see that the only place we can ever start from is where we are right now. The only moment we ever have is now. And there is, like you say, there is no separation. And to start to nourish both our mind and our body. And we can't, I think once we start to do that, whichever way, like you say, Bec, whichever way we do that, it has an effect, because there is no separation, because there aren't two things there. Whichever starting point, wherever we come in from, it has a knock-on effect on the other side. If we begin to nourish our mind, it makes sense to nourish our body. We're doing that anyway. And the two things work absolutely beautifully together. You can't separate them. And definitely for me, the starting point is just being okay with exactly who you are, where you are, and what you are right now, and not doing that I'll be happy when, however we do it.
Yes, because the thing is, then we keep looking in the future, I will be happy when, and then that moment comes and we're still not happy, we're still frustrated, it doesn't work out. It will never come the way you expect it to be, that's what we know, the future is an incomplete equation. It will come different, and you can do as much as you want to. So the only place there ever is this moment right now. And actually, when you really see in that moment right now, we are okay. We are absolutely okay. If you're 10 kilos more, or if you're 10 kilos less, or whatever, whatever your health is, actually in that moment you're sitting, you are okay. But thought tells us we're not.
Yeah.
Because then we're thinking about future events, or we're thinking about stuff in our past. We're thinking us away from this present moment. And then, and that's when we want to have things different. And that's where problem starts, isn't it? That's where everything starts, that actually I want something different, what is asked of me in that present moment right now.
Yeah, And it's that bit, I think, when you said that thought tells us we're not okay or we're not perfect in this moment. That to me is the bit when you said earlier that your client said to you, I didn't know I had a choice.
Yes.
Because thought kind of comes dressed up as, you know, absolute truth. And as we start to look in this direction, we see through that more and more. So when that thought comes in and says, no, you're not okay here, somewhere in us we go, are you sure? Am I not? Really? Can I actually, you know, not have this coffee or not eat this extra food and be okay? Oh yeah, I actually can. And we do, I mean, we do a lot of playing around with stuff like that. We do a lot of kind of, we challenge ourselves a lot with the, you know, where can we see through this? Where, you know, where can we have a different experience?
I find that really interesting with fasting, you see. So I like to do fasting as well. And for me, fasting was always, you know, for other people, not for me. Not for me. I love food. I like eating. So you go and fast. You do that, but not me. And then I found out about the amazing health benefits fasting has. But still, then doing it is still another thing. So I found I was sitting, the first time ever I was fasting, I was sitting on my computer doing stuff. And I suddenly thought, oh, I need some kind of food between my teeth. You know, I want to go to the cupboard and eat something. And I was just still sitting there doing my stuff. And I did know through this understanding that thought is passing. And I don't need to interact with thought. And I was still continue sitting there doing my stuff. And I had all these thoughts running through me like cinema, you know, and then it passes. And then I did something else. And I was completely doing stuff. And I continued my fast. And today I can fast. I'm actually still fasting. I stopped eating on Sunday night. So I start eating again this afternoon. After Christmas, I thought I'd do a longer fast. And it's really interesting when you understand the power of thought in it, you are actually able to go with it easier, because it's not easy when you don't understand that. But when you understand that, it's just, wow, it's just like a magic wand you have, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of the things we do a lot, if you're part of our community, is we do challenges, and it is for that reason. It's to play around with and see for yourself, because one of the things that I know we are absolutely great believers in is pointing people to their own wisdom. You know, you know within you know about yourself. You all are the authority and know more about you than anyone else does. And what we do, or what, you know, we can be tricked by our thoughts a lot, as you know, as you've just said. And for me, one of the reasons that I love to do challenges is because, you know, we have these stories. Like I have this story, and I quite like my story. Like, you know, you can't have a cup of tea without a piece of cake. You know, that's one of my stories.
Exact opposite story, which is hilarious.
It's a very English thing. I was saying that the Germans like the cake too. So.
And so lately, you know, I've been trying. Here I am, you know, I've had my cup of tea this morning, and so I like, you know, for me, it's kind of like, okay, challenge that just for the pure fun of it. What happens? You know, that my thinking says to me, tea goes with cake or biscuit, or, you know, you have something with your tea, and I'm good with that. But it's like, just for the pure fun of it, what happens if can you actually have a cup of tea without that? Can you? And we do that all, like, not, you know, not with literally everything. If a thought, a story appears in my mind in that way, and it's kind of like, okay, so what happens if we don't? What happens if we do something different, try something different, whatever? And for me, playing around with that has shown me that how much more there is to me than, like, when you were talking about the fasting and kind of going, yeah, fasting's not for me. One of the things that we did last year was, and we're going to do it again this year actually, was a silent retreat. And if you know us and know how, you know, we talk a lot, you know, silence looks like it's not for us, like fasting looked like it wasn't for you. You know, it's kind of like, no, that's for someone else. I love the idea of silence. But it was really, really amazing. And I think, the fact that we could do that in the same way as you're talking about your fasting is because we played around, we challenged ourselves. We'd kind of, my thinking was going, you're never going to stay quiet. You're bonkers. You're saying to everyone you're going to do a silent retreat. Are you mad? You're never going to do that. And then we did, but and there were definitely times when my thinking was going, just talk, just say something now. Just say, go on, you can say something. Go on, you can. In the same way, like you're talking about those thoughts of go to the cupboard and eat food. And yet there is so much more to us. And I think when we play around with this, and in whatever arena we want to play with it, whether it is food and nourishing in that way, whether it is, nourishing ourselves mentally, whether it's a mixture, whatever it is, it just feels like when those stories are in my mind, it's an invitation for me to look for, is there more to me than just that story? Can there be something else? And it just feels like every time I play with that, I learn things about myself. I get to know myself more. And for me, a spiritual journey and looking in this direction is all about knowing myself, because then everything is better when I know, whatever I do, the more that I know that what my body is telling me in all sorts of ways, I do better in every way.
That's I do better. I just think I do. I'm kinder with myself. I would say to that. Yes, but I absolutely agree what you just said, and I just thought it just reminded me as well. That a lot of people are getting vegan in the moment. And I mean, we are plant-based. We call it plant-based, my husband and I. As we just simply, for me, our rules are there to be broken. You see, so I'm plant-based. I'm really interested in our animal welfare, and I completely completely on board with that. But I also look at health. And for me, a lot of vegans are not really eating healthy. When I go, for example, I went once in Exmouth on a vegan market, and it was 2/3 was sugar, on the market. It was not healthy stuff. There were lots of pasties and stuff, lots of carbohydrate-based foods and stuff. And the most healthiest stall actually on there was from Chillingford, from a local farmer, organic farm, and that was empty. And a lot of people think, I'm going vegan, I'm healthy. I'm going gluten-free, and I'm healthy. They keep up to these rules as well. But what I found is when I, for example, go into a restaurant, and that's the reason we call ourselves plant-based and not vegan, is when I go in a restaurant and I would order the vegan food, I get very high carbohydrate-based food often, And when I go for the vegetarian option, where there's maybe some goat cheese on it, then I get maybe a nice salad with goat cheese, and but what to eat, and that's for me then in that point that I decide I like to go healthy, and it's my rule. I created in the first place, so I can break it anytime. Is, for example, a funny story was once we went on Dartmoor, went for a walk on Wistman's Wood, and it was just when we decided we're going plant-based, we're going to go the whole hit. Okay, lovely walk. And then suddenly we said, but we are by two bridges and they have lovely scones. What are we going to do? So now we can't have the scones. Well, hang on, when we eat scones, I need some butter or clotted cream on it. I mean, that's without, And we just said, you know what? Nobody's going to see us. So we just said, you know what? And that's that moment when we just started it, that we saw, rules are there to be broken, But for me, it's, I do my part for the animal welfare, yes. And I'm doing my part for health, but I'm human, and it's finding that lovely peace, that lovely way in between. And when we start to yes, so yes, so I think it's so powerful. What are you laughing?
As you were saying that, I was saying the word balance, because we talk a lot about balance in all areas of life, and that for me includes the food thing. And everything you said there, I love that, because we talk about balance in kind of, the more we know this and the more we see this, there are places where we can be way out of balance. And exactly like that example of, people, I hear a lot of people, like you were saying, go kind of vegan or gluten-free because it appears to be healthy. I didn't even know what you just said about a lot of vegan foods being high in sugar. But you can see that people follow what appears to be a trend because it's termed healthy. And actually, if they're not following that from their own wisdom, they're just going to eat food that they've got no real idea if it is full of sugar or not. But when we're going when we're in a place of balance, and we know there's moments where you might think, do you know what, it's right to have my scone with clotted cream right now, it's right to choose the salad with goat cheese in this moment, or whatever it is. When we're doing that from our wisdom, there can't be any damage to ourselves or the world in that. It just doesn't work that way. This only works one way. So when we're completely in balance and we're trusting and following our innate wisdom, whatever we're doing is the right thing to do. And we can easily, we swing way out of balance on all sorts of things. And to me, that's that whole, when people are following a trend of I'm going gluten-free, that's out of balance. If you're choosing to be, like you say, plant-based or whatever that might be, from a place of knowing in yourself that that's the right thing to do, that's entirely different to just following the latest food trends.
I mean, we can't forget that there are some people out there who are actually gluten intolerant, so we don't want to underestimate that stuff, when there is someone listening to us now as well, because I think that's really important. But, that's where I like as well to work with our innate ability of self-healing, because if there is gluten intolerance, and we have a lot of intolerances today with clients or with people, if it's nut allergies or whatever, and intolerances, but where do they come from? And for me, it's really important to go back to that, the root, the cause, where does it come from, and working with my clients on that, and then work on the innate ability of self-healing on a physical level, and then bringing that together with our ability of self-healing on a mental level, then the combination is just a powerhouse for me.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed when I came across this understanding, I used to be ill a lot. I was a very unhealthy person. I used to have a lot of headaches. I used to suffer from migraines. I used to have all sorts of allergies. And I've never really looked into any of that stuff. I've never kind of gone down that route. But what I have noticed is, through this understanding, I am incredibly healthy. It is not very often that I am ill these days at all. It is quite rare that I'm poorly. And so to me, that is just beginning to understand how we work. It looked like some of the things that I had wrong with me looked as if they were physical things that were nothing to do, understanding my thinking wasn't going to change the fact that, I was allergic to these kinds of things or whatever, or had bad reactions and things. And yet those things have gone, they've cleared up on their own. So definitely we absolutely do have, the closer I think we live in that place of balance, it feels to me, and however that makes sense to us, whatever it looks to me, whatever appeals to us, and whatever it feels like, the intelligence behind the universe takes us in a direction. And the part of us that the paradoxical part of us that feels like it's separate, it feels like the intelligence behind the universe shows us what we need to see, whether it is around food, whether it's around our mental state, whatever it is. And like we've said before, you know, there's no disconnection there. So once we start to look in this direction, whatever it is we are shown, whatever it is, when we look to that deeper truth of ourselves, whatever it is that is troubling us in any way at all, begins to clear up, because we are following that wisdom. We are looking, we are nourishing ourselves. Like it is, that's a beautiful, you know, word. And once we begin to do that, we can't help but heal.
Exactly. Oh, that's so beautiful that you picked that one out. That's exactly it, you know, and that's our innate ability of self-healing, you know, when we start to get out of our own way. And that's exactly what fasting does, you know, when you actually, and that was when I was on board. I mean, I just thought, God, this is fascinating. You know, when you look at nature, you know, so you have a factory, and you know, the factory is like old, or like an old castle or something, you know, it breaks down and nature starts to take over. The birds start nesting in it again, you know. Nature is just so beautiful. It just heals itself, you know, so we can go get in the way, but it always wants to take over, you know. And the same is with our physique, you know. So with fasting, for example, when you don't eat for 24 hours, your gut starts to build its own stem cells. And stem cells are cells which you can use in your system for all kinds, you know. So they can be changed in absolutely any kind of cells. So you know, a lot of people with cancer, they have stem cell therapy and spend like loads of money for that. And we start actually after going on a fast for a certain time, our body starts to heal itself from innate, you know. And that's so fascinating for me to see that, you know. So there is a doctor, for example, who puts all his clients preventionally every year in spring on a weekly water fast, you know. So you can, and I don't want to say all, but you can, there is the possibility to heal cancers out with that one, you know, with fasting. And it's just absolutely amazing, you know. And when you think it works already on a slight level, you know, when you cut yourself, you don't have to do anything and it heals itself, you know. When you break your leg, you maybe have to have it set, but your system is doing the rest and it heals itself. And then also what you said, you know, mind is overlying absolutely everything. I mean, for example, I had loads of tension I used to have in my shoulders, and I was driving in the car and I suddenly thought, oh, this is really interesting. I'm so relaxed these days with my shoulders. So that's only on a muscular level, what you near enough can see. So what do you reckon, you know, when your mind quiets down, what it does on a cellular level? When you think have you ever seen water crystals? Water crystals that look like beautiful snowflakes. So when you think we are over 75% water, so our cells look like these water crystals. So when you give them different information, you know, they're going to change. And so the same the other way around, you know, like you said, you never had to do something, you know, but it all healed itself out. And that starts with the mind. Absolutely. I'm completely, that's the beauty on this understanding. It just changes. I mean, it changed for a lot of people in the understanding. So many, problems. It's just beautiful. I just keep saying beautiful. Yeah.
Nourishing and beautiful. Mental questions or anything like that?
A couple of things. Lisa, when we were talking earlier about kind of the diet stuff, Lisa was saying that she's mainly plant-based, but she calls herself, I love this, a flexitarian.
Brilliant.
I particularly like her last statement. She says, I eat intuitively. Absolutely that. Yes.
We call that eating from wisdom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very much so. And then avoid chit chat.
Exactly,
No
because your
if anyone
system
has
always tells you, you know, what you need in any given moment. You just know, and just, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And very much for me, this conversation is about coming back to hearing our wisdom, because I really kind of see how much that gets drowned out. Kind of society, we've put a lot of emphasis on our intellect and way less emphasis on our wisdom and that intuitive that Lisa talked about there, or kind of gut instinct, which I think is a good phrase when we're talking about nutrition and food. Gut instinct, like we know what we need, and then we just drown out that voice and we listen to the thinking and the whirring that goes on in our heads instead. And very much this conversation with me is about pointing back to listen to your own wisdom, get to know that voice in you, and be brave. It takes a bit of courage sometimes to listen to it and take the first kind of steps of courage, but do it, because I mean, I think all three of us could sit here and tell story after story about the things that have changed for us when we've been brave enough to listen to that kind of that wisdom voice in us. And exactly like we were saying earlier, the more we listen to that, the more we look for that, the more we hear it, the clearer it gets. And that, that's true for every single one of us in this conversation.
But it's not even, listening to our innate wisdom, it comes to us, so when we are in that stillness, it's not us doing it. It comes to us in that moment, it just, the right thing comes to us. That's what's on in that moment, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah says, thank you so much for this. It hits the spot while I'm enjoying my self-healing.
Yeah, keep going. Sage tea is a good thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you got the sore throat, sage tea, fresh sage leaves with thyme, which helps you with your inflammation, and so it's very good. Do that. That helps.
Nice. Oh, top tip for you there, Sarah.
Yes, top tip for the day. Yes, and sage tea is also, it's blood cleansing, so it's wonderful. When you got a cold, to really get it out of. Oh, there you're back.
Oh, we've even got a picture.
You were completely gone. I just saw myself. So sorry, everyone. I just thought, what am I going to do?
Just keep talking. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Our internet obviously had a blip moment, but I think we're back. Yeah, what I was going to say in response to what you were sharing there is, I love, to me, it looks like we kind of talk about mind or the power behind this life. It looks to me like there is no problem that doesn't come with a solution. Like if we can name it a problem, it has a solution. Mm-hmm. And I loved kind of what you were saying there, that certain herbs have healing properties for particular things. And that for me, that's a perfect example. There's no kind of physical ailment that we can create in this world that doesn't have an answer already in this world. And if that's,
you see, what I always like to say is, we are nature. We are it. And every season tells us what we need in that time. So when you look in spring, there are nettles and there are dandelions and there are all kinds of detoxing herbs out there. So it tells us, like March, so it's not the time to detox. January, February, it's still winter. You want to nourish yourself, you want to keep yourself warm. Detoxing, is in springtime, March, April, that's when all the plants suddenly come through and you get all the fresh nettles and so on. Blood cleansing and so on. And then in summer it's all fruit, full of fruits and salads and stuff. So we want to have more raw food. And then comes autumn, and there comes all the root vegetables who like to be cooked, which we start now to eat all raw, but actually that's warming food. And in the Chinese medicine, what I was working with a long time, you say you need these kinds of food as well to warm your chi, your life energy, So there are all the root vegetables, and they want to be in stews and curries and stuff, you know. So it always tells us, and we keep forgetting, you know, that we are part of nature. We are it, you know. So yeah, it's going back to that, and all these herbs which can help us heal when there is something.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, I really like that.
I really like that. Yeah. And again, it's another one of those places, isn't it, where we think that we're separate from it, and we're not. You know, there is no separation. We are nature. So yeah, looking to nature is looking within, because we are that. So yeah, looking for the clues in where we are. I think that's beautiful. Doing those things. And it feels like we're not, the way that nature changes, we're not fixed either. It is like, you know, if you say, we're not supposed, it doesn't look to me like we're supposed to do one thing and never do anything different. It does feel like, you know, it changes. The minute we've kind of got into a fasting place, now's the time to have something else. And then when we get in, it's time to have something else now. It's time for something else. And it's not, and I definitely know with what we do, it's kind of, the minute you think you found the answer, it gets whipped away from you, because it's not fixed. It is that movement. It is that changing. It is that go with the next thing now. Go with the next thing. So I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I really something in that really touched me when you said that. And what I kind of heard in what you were saying as well is how nature doesn't get impatient with us, because it just keeps telling you, said we forget, and every year it just comes back and reminds us again. Here we go again, guys. We'll go through it again.
Exactly. Yes.
It's like it doesn't get impatient. Oh, we'll go again then, shall we? Here we are. Another cycle, because you've forgotten again. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. Oh yes, and we forget, and then we get reminded again, and that's the beauty of this understanding, isn't it? That we just start to see that more and more and more.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah, and get reminded. So that's lovely. Thank you. I'm aware that we're kind of coming up, we're almost out of time. So if people want to contact you or want to know more about your work or anything, you know, what would be the best place? You know, how would it be the best way for people to get in contact with you, Paola?
Thank you for asking that. That is very kind. So you can go on my website, which is www.healthylivingwithpaola. That's Paola. And Royal is like the royal family, Royal. So healthylivingwithpaolaroyal.co.uk. That's the best place to look. I also going to start an online course, a group course this Friday, Living Lighter, which encompasses all of that, what we just talked, working in a group. And I also do one-to-ones. So have a look on my website. I'm happy to have a chat with you, a phone call or whatever, you know, if you're a Zoom call, and we can talk what works best for each individually. And I think that's about it. I'm writing a book in a moment. It's nearly done. Yes. So I'm just on the final. It's all written, but there's always little stuff coming towards it still. Yeah, and then it goes over to my mentor, and then it goes out, and then let's see.
I'm thinking bookstore at the conference next year.
Yes, we have our bookstore at the conference. So maybe we need another conversation and
definitely.
Great. Yes, great. Yes, we're going to see each other anyway, I think, quite soon on the 24th, I think.
Yeah. Yes, we're catching up face to face towards the end of January.
Yeah, because you are like us, you're based in Devon, aren't you? You're south and we're north, but you are based in Devon. So we're not too far apart to do things physically, which is rather nice. Okay.
Just a couple of things I think that are coming up for us if people want to connect with us, because we're always up to something, aren't we?
Usually got our fingers in lots of pies.
Absolutely. We don't always eat them though. It depends. Depends what wisdom says. So we've got our live YouTube show at 5:00 tomorrow. We are starting this year a challenge day every week. So if you're interested in, like we talked about a little bit on this show, kind of challenging yourselves, we're doing a challenge day on Thursday in our Facebook group, so you can join in with that. We've also got a mentoring, small mini mentoring group that starts next week if you're interested in kind of working with us and looking into this a little bit deeper. Anything else we've got that's worth mentioning? So much stuff happening.
Yeah, so much stuff.
I saw you photo.
Yeah. So we've got so many things going on, it's hard to remember them all. There's lots of ways to connect with us. So we have obviously the page that you're watching this on. We've also got a Facebook group that we're quite active and share a lot in there. So yeah, so unless anyone's got any other questions, I think that's probably us done. That was a really, really nice conversation.
It was really lovely. It was really, really nice. Yes. And if you could pass me on to that lady where you're working for on Friday, where you give the talk.
Yes, Helen. Yes, on Friday.
Yeah, the new, what is it?
It's called nurishing.org. We'll put a link below this, so if people are interested in our Friday webinar, you can find out more about that as well.
And we'll connect you with Helen.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
And thank you everyone for joining us. It's been nice to see you.
Thank you everyone.
It's been a lovely conversation.
So take care everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.